Things are going kind of nuts right now in the new parts market, so I thought I'd do a video on how much $600 will buy you on the used market. All right, so stick with me. We'll go through all this stuff. I'll be right back. All right, thanks for joining me. And so, as I said, I spent $600, well, $590 to be exact, to get all this stuff right here from a couple of different people, actually. And I wanted to show this because, like I said in the intro, the new parts market is going a little nuts right now, mostly driven by the GPUs, the NVIDIA GPUs right now. Also, there's scarcity with the new Intel GPU, and I imagine that there's going to be some scarcity with AMD GPUs when those roll out. And so I wanted to figure out, okay, what can my money buy me, right, for $600 and still perform decently, not awesomely and not current gen comparisons or anything like that, but something that's acceptable, something that's going to tide you over until, you know, the market becomes a lot more reasonable. And so what I got here is, there's right over there is a fully modular 550 watt power supply, and some RAM sticks are right here. So this one's not worth a lot, and it's, I think, two 4 gig sticks at 2400 megahertz. And they're Crucial sticks, and there's a couple more Crucial SODIMMs. Now these are 2x8s at 3200 megahertz DDR4, and so yeah, that's not bad. And believe it or not, those three things I got free. So I bought this GPU from this guy that was selling it for 100 bucks, and this is an MSI GTX 1080. And so I talked him down at 90 bucks, and he and I met, and I looked the card over and it looked good, so I was willing to pay him. And he had brought this stuff, the power supply and the 2 RAM sticks, or the 2 RAM kits with him. And I looked at them and I'm like, you know, I don't really have a need for them. Maybe somewhere down the line, if I was going to do like a low budget build, then I could use it. I was looking for a 1080 at the time to use as my go-to GPU when I'm testing a build where I'm having video problems. And so I wanted something that was dependable, that I could hang on to. I'm telling him this stuff and he's like, you know what, I'll just give this stuff to you. All right, so yeah, I got that stuff at no extra charge. And then the next day, the same guy contacts me and says that he's got another 1080. And obviously this is a asus Strix version of the 1080. He asked me how much I'd pay him for it, and I told him probably about the same price as I did for the MSI, about 90 bucks. And then he had found some fans and an SSD and stuff like that. We started talking. The fans that aren't these were older Corsair fans, but they're not worth a lot. You know, when I looked them up on the used market, they were selling for like 10 bucks a pop for a pack of 3. And so I told him this, and he said, you know what, I'll take those Corsair fans and I'll give them to a friend that wants to do a build of his own. How about 10 bucks for these fans? And I was like, yeah, that's perfectly reasonable. So I spent another $100 on this, the 1080, and these 3 Lee & Lee AL120 fans in white, no less. All right. And then with a different guy, I got this for 400 bucks. What's in here is an 11900 CPU. It's not a K version. I don't think it's a KF or an F. I think it's just a straight 11900, but we'll figure that out once we crack it open and take a look at everything. And it's got a 1660 Ti. It's got 32 gigs of DDR4, I think at 3200 megahertz. And I think it was a 512 gig SSD that's in there. So pretty decent find for 400 bucks. So we're gonna take a look at all this stuff and see if everything's working the way it should, run some benchmarks. All right, so I'll be right back. All right, first things first, we're gonna test out this power supply, make sure it's in working order. And it looks like most of the cables that go with this power supply are here. So we pretty much got everything we need for this power supply. And as I said, it's a 550 watt power supply. It's a Rosewell 80 plus bronze 550 watt. And it looks like on the 12 volt rail, going up to 485 watts. So not a bad power supply. So if it's working, we could certainly use it in some mid-tier to lower end builds. Go. Ooh, that is not a good sign. That 24 pin was sitting kind of loose, so let's try it again. No, this power supply might not be any good. Might have done an overcurrent protection thing where it's not gonna come on unless I let it sit for a while. So let's come back to this. Hopefully these are the cables that came with it, because sometimes if you put the wrong cables on the wrong power supply, this is what's going to happen. So hopefully that's not the case. Well, captive screws, it's always nice to see. But we do have a problem already, in that we have a proprietary power supply right here. It being a Dell PC, that it's more likely than not that we've got a proprietary motherboard in here. All right, so we do have some dusting going on in here, so we are gonna have to clean this out a little bit. And as I feared, we are looking at a proprietary motherboard. So as you can see here, I don't know if the camera's going to catch it well enough, but the motherboard extends beyond this part right here into the USB. And there's our 1660 Ti. Single fan unit. We got a Noctua CPU cooler, air cooler, with a couple of, I want to say 90 millimeter fans from the size of them. And that's nice to see. 2 sticks of DDR4, 16 gig sticks each. So that gives us the 32. And we'll turn this on and confirm what we're seeing here. Yeah, this motherboard is a piece of crap. Looks like it's got Wi-Fi though. Oh my God, I think this is the drive right here. A 2230 form factor on an M.2 slot right there. All right, well, let's turn this puppy on and see what we got here. All right, let's run the multi-core. Right, 11,976 on R23 is not bad considering the age of the CPU. We hit a high of 78 degrees Celsius on the package, so that's pretty good with a stress test like Cinebench. Here's the single core.
right, 1480, not awesome, but not bad either. And it looks like we didn't hit a package temperature above 72. So yeah, it's running pretty nice and cool. All right, so let's try 1080p high. All right, not bad for a 1660 Ti, 1080p high, average of almost starting to move towards 65 FPS, minimum of 53, max of 83. It didn't get any hotter than 77C, so that's pretty good. And we've got some Lean Lee Unifans, a 3-pack, the AL120 RGBs. And these are not fans. These are 3 controllers, they're not fans. Which would explain why we've got so many of these. This one is empty, no controller. And this one's got another controller. So we didn't get fans, we got controllers. I think I would have rather gotten the controllers than the 3 fans, because the 3 fans would have meant for me to match them in a build, I'd have to go out and buy at least 3 more, if not more, for a case. So having extra controllers for when I come across other Lean Lee fans that maybe don't have a controller, or the controller's gone bad, still got some value out of that for 10 bucks. An Asus Strix GTX 1080. It looks like it's got some RGB right here, and it's pretty clean. Not a lot of dust. So for this one, once we put it on our bench, if it doesn't have any thermal issues, we're not going to need to open this card up. All we need to do is wipe it down and do a little dusting, and that one will be good. And here's an MSI GTX 1080. I think this is a Ventus 2. And this card is pretty clean too. So again, unless we're having some thermal issues when we put it on the bench, we should be good. If that's true, if we don't have any thermal issues with these 2 cards, then that's a pretty good deal, 90 bucks a pop for 1080 8 gig. Let's put these on a bench and see what we got. We got everything on high and ultra, so it's pretty much an ultra setting. And we're gonna do the 1080p benchmark on this MSI 1080 GPU. All right, we got an average of almost 49 FPS at 1080p ultra settings. And the GPU temperature didn't get above 67C. For a GPU of this age and strength, it's I'm actually pretty happy with almost 49 FPS at ultra settings. So just out of curiosity, let's take a look at what medium settings would look like. I think that's our sweet spot, is the medium settings at 1080p with no frame gen, no DLSS, no RT or anything. Very, very playable at 64 frames a second on average. And the temperature didn't go above 67C again. All right, so let's try some other stuff. So everything's at high settings. let's run the benchmark now. All right, on high settings, that looks like our sweet spot for the MSI 1080 at just under 63 FPS average. So high settings at 1080p is where we want to be for RDR2 for this GPU. Well, with a 9800X3D, of course. All right, so let's try Black Myth. Don't think we're going to do very well with very high settings on this benchmark, so we're going to just go to all high settings. Okay, 57 FPS. That's actually a pretty good score for Black Myth Wukong at high settings. So yeah. So as you can see, the power supply works, and so we're good with that. And I think it was the SATA cable that was having a problem, so I gotta troubleshoot that, but you know, no use in filming that. The Asus 1080, I went ahead and benchmarked that, but I didn't show it in this video, mostly because it's pretty much the same result as the MSI card. So, you know, what you saw on the MSI card is pretty much the same thing that you would have seen for the Asus card. Going back to the PC, so it is a proprietary motherboard, it is a proprietary power supply, and so because of those things, there's no overclocking on, or there's no overclocking capacity that this motherboard allows, right? So that's probably why it's got the 11900 rather than the KF or the K in there. So the RAM is stuck at 2933 megahertz. So just to be clear, I didn't put this video together to show you lower end stuff and how those things work. I wanted to show you that there's all kinds of deals out there, right? And so when the market is the way the market is right now, mostly due to the scarcity on GPUs, then you either have to decide to be patient or get stuff like this to tide you over until the market becomes more stabilized. Because let me tell you, the distributors and manufacturers, especially on the GPU side, they're manipulating the market. They are providing you with a shortage and scarcity of their products on purpose, right? One, because, you know, like for instance, NVIDIA, their chips are worth more in server systems than on your cards. And so, you know, it's an understandable business move, but at the same time, it was a horrible tactic for them to announce and roll out the 50 series GPUs knowing that they weren't going to supply very much to the market, creating a scarcity, which then, coupled with the tariffs, created an environment where the board partners and things like that and pre-built companies and things like that would see how the market is, and now you're seeing prices where they're pretty much at the scalper level prices, right? You've got 40 series GPUs that are being sold for like 2 to 3 grand, maybe more, up to like 4 grand I've seen for like a 4090. You got 50 series GPUs that are so scarce that the prices are going like upwards of 50% higher than the MSRP, sometimes even higher than that. You've got the B580 from Intel that's still scarce. So yeah, I mean, the only reaction you can have, or you should have, is not to panic and try to go and buy that stuff at highly inflated prices, but to wait it out. And
two of the ways you can wait it out is, one, you just have patience and you say, okay, I'm not going to do my build today, or I'm not going to buy my pre-build today. Or you can do like I showed you just now, which is, you know, put together a project PC that's fun to put together and play around with until the market calms down. You know, for $600, I got this with $590. I got all this stuff to play around with. That cost me less than a 5070 Ti, right? And so why not do that? If you want to do like some PC stuff, you want to do some solid gaming and things like that, a 1080 is not a bad way to go, especially if you're willing to play it at 1080p. Some used GPUs out there that are like the 30 series and even the 20 series cards that'll perform pretty decently at nominal prices. And so, you know, don't play into their tactics. Don't encourage them to keep doing it by purchasing the stuff that they're forcing down your throat. Don't do that. It's a horrible reaction to enable these companies into charging you way more than what these parts are worth. All right, so just don't do that. Either wait it out, or, you know, have some fun with where you're playing around with stuff, kind of like this stuff right here, right? Otherwise, you know, you're just gonna play into their hand. All right, enough of my ranting, and I'll get off my soapbox now. Hopefully this helps you to see that, you know, there's plenty of other things that you could be doing from a PC aspect that's not gonna cost you an arm and a leg, and that's not gonna break your bank, and that's not going to force your hand to buy something that is not worth what it's priced at. If you got any questions for me, feel free to leave them down in the comments. If you liked this video and the subject matter, please hit that like and subscribe. That helps out the channel a ton. In the meantime, thanks for joining me, and hope to see you in the next one.